So, agile methodology and how the agile process is working in real-time environment. Like, see, agile model, or agile methodology or agile process. So, these three names are same. So, agile is basically iterative and incremental model. Iterative means what? So same kind of process we are repeating again and again. So means getting the requirements, design, coding, testing. So again, same process we will continue. So we have seen this kind of model in spiral model and incremental. Incremental means we will implement some features at the beginning in the software. And then we keep on adding new modules or new features on particular existing software. So this is called incremental approach. In agile process, the main principle is we will deliver the software with a piece of software. For example, customer have 100 features in the software. And in agile process, what you will do? So we will not deliver 100 features as one single shot, right? So one single software to the customer. At the same time, we don't want to customer wait for a long time. And if I have 100 features in our application, customer has to wait for a long time till we completed the development and testing. But in agile process, we have follow mainly two principles. So first principle is customer no need to wait till the complete software is developed. So because we have to deliver the software in pieces. And if you take one example, 100 features given by the client, just assume. So we will implement 10 features first and we will develop and test it, and then we'll release a small piece of software to the client as early as possible. And after that, meanwhile, customer is working on piece of software, and meanwhile we will also take another 10 features and we will develop and test it, and again we will release another version of software to the customer. So like this, customer no need to wait for a long time, and the same time we are delivering the piece of software contains some functionality, some features which will implemented and tested. So these are the main two principles we will follow in agile process. And what is the third principle? So we can accommodate the changes from the customer. Suppose initially the customer gives 100 requirement and we already develop and test it. In the middle of the development, somewhere customer came back and asked to change some requirement and accommodate some new requirement. We can accommodate easily those requirements. So that kind of facility we are having in agile model. These are the most important principles. So first principle is customer no need to wait for a long time. Second principle is we develop, test and release a piece of software to the customer with a few number of features. And third principle is we can accept or accommodate requirement changes. So these are the three principles that we have to follow and that we are doing in agile process. So this is not supported in any other models, and it is only possible in agile process. So we will deliver the software every time with a few number of functionality, and we can accept the requirement changes at any time of the software development process. In agile process, there will be a good communication in between developer, tester, and customer. So they are collectively work together for only one goal, and it is not like other models like waterfall model, spiral model, way model. Here the communication will be good and we can directly interact with the customer, developers, testers, or product owner. Everybody together sit and communicate, and multiple number of meetings will be conducted, and communication will be very good in agile process. Everybody will work together and collaboratively towards in one goal, and that is produce the quality product to the customer. So in agile process, delivery is very faster because within 2 weeks or 3 weeks time. So deliver the piece of software to the customer when compared to other models. If you take first, what are the advantages of it? So this is the agile principles and advantages. First advantage is requirement changes are allowed in any stage of development. So as we discussed earlier, this is especially this particular model, we can accept the requirement at any stage of development process. Only this possibility in this model. And what is the second point? Releases will be very fast. Customer no need to wait for a long time. Every week or every 2 or 3 weeks, we will release a new piece of software to the customer. Good communication between team. And what is the next point? It is very easy model to adopt. Nowadays, most of the companies following the agile process, and these are the advantages. And what are the disadvantages? Let's focus on design and documentation since they deliver the software very faster. So there is a less documentation, sometimes no documentation also. Why? Because in waterfall model and other models, we have huge documents, right? Like FRS document, design documents, HLD, LLD, test plan, everything is documented properly, right? But in agile process, we don't have that much of documents, and we will have very, very less documents because the releases are very faster. Within 2 or 3 weeks, we have to release one software to the customer. In that particular short period of time, we cannot create any documentation because it takes a lot of time. So in this process, it will not focus on the documents, but we will have more number of meetings. In those meetings, we will discuss the requirements very clearly. So this is all about disadvantage. So let us know the roles of the agile methodology. So first one is Scrum. So it is very important. What is Scrum in agile? So sometimes people may ask, what is the difference between agile and Scrum? So people lot of confusion between these two. So most of the people thinks both are same, but let me just clarify on this. Agile is basically a process model. Scrum is a kind of framework through which develop and test the software. Finally, we release the software to the customer. So Agile is basically defines the principle, how the process should be. And to follow the process, Scrum is a kind of framework which will help us. So Agile is a kind of process and defined process with some principles. To follow the principle, we have something called a Scrum framework, and this will help us to follow the principle of Agile. That is the basic difference between Agile and Scrum. So Agile is define the process like which says we have to follow like this. We have to follow these principles. That is Agile. But Scrum says how to follow them and how to implement those principles, whatever defined in Agile. That is Scrum. So definition is Scrum is a framework through which we build software product by following Agile principles. In the Scrum, there are set of people will be developed, will be involved. We can call it as Agile team or Scrum team. And what are the people are involved in Scrum team? In the Scrum team, we have something called product owner and Scrum master, developer team, and QA team. So these are four types of people will comes under Scrum team, right? And what is the second point? Scrum includes group of people called as Scrum team. Normally contains 5 to 9 members. So what who are those? Product owner, Scrum Master, development team, QA team. So four types of people involved in the Scrum Master and Scrum team.
Sorry,
So let's
uh, hello.
yeah.
Yeah, in Scrum, there is no development team and testing team. This both are one only.
So sorry, both are
In Scrum, right? In
yeah.
We don't consider development team or testing team. We actually
Hmm.
call this as a team only.
Okay. So we
Okay.
don't involve in
So
Scrum team.
no,
So
no,
we
no.
just in uh,
No, no. The thing is, developers and testers are called as a team. So it says actually uh, the developers should also know the testing thing, and testers also should know some of the developer thing. So there is no as a developer or testers in Scrum. It is one only. It's called as a team.
okay.
Uh,
So,
there is no bifurcation. As in, so developer team, your third and fourth point, it should be only one. So even the developer, there will be a developer and there will be a tester. But
okay,
uh, so both will be considered as one only, as a part of a team.
okay, okay, okay. Thank you, Kiran. So, let us understand what are the roles of these people. First one is product owner. So, what product owner will do, and what is the responsibility of a scrum master, and what is the responsibility of developers, and as usual, what is the responsibility of QA team? We'll see. In agile process, everybody work together, right? And as a one single team. So even QA, developer, product owner, scrum master, all people work together for one particular product, right? So, and the ultimate goal of the agile process we follow is to deliver the quality product to the customer as soon as possible. So let us see roles and responsibilities of these people. So first, let us start with the product owner. And who is the product owner and what he will do? The product owner basically defines the features of the product. So he is the actual person who will write the features of the application. And he is the guy always interacted with with the client and get the input or requirement from the client. And he will take care of defining all the features of the product. So that is the main responsibility of the product owner. And he is a separate role and separate designation. And and what is the second point here? Prioritize features according to market value. So, for example, he collected all the features and functionalities from the customer. And once he collected, he will give the priority them. And what are the main features really required to the market and customer? So he will give a priority that and he will adjust to those features and give priority every iteration. For example, he has 100 features to be developed for the product. And among that 100 features, he will decide what are the features implemented first and what are the features to be implemented in the next cycle and what are the features to be implemented in the third cycle. So he will adjust the features accordingly every iteration or in every cycle as needed. And finally, he may accept or reject work results. Suppose he has said some of the features to the developer and testers. So they have developed and tested, and once the software is done, they have to give the demo to the piece of product. They have to give the demo to the owner, right? They have to show what features are developed and tested, and if the product owner those features, that he can accept it. Suppose if doesn't like it, something is not working or something is working differently, so he can also reject them. He is the main person. Product owner is the main person. So he is the first point of contact. He will also interact with the customer or talk to the customer and get the requirements. And then he will assign all features to the developer and testers and process will go on. So he will define the product features. So this is the main responsibility of the product owner. The first role in Scrum is product owner. The responsibility of product owner is define the features of the product and Scrum master. So this is a kind of separate role. Only it will be there in agile process. And Scrum Master is a different role and person will be there. And he is not a developer, tester, and not belongs to any manager or management activities. And it is a specific role. And the main role of Scrum Master is facilitating and driving the agile process. He knows each and every activity in agile process. He know how to drive the process, and he or she makes sure the rest of the people like developer, tester, and everybody who is present in the project. So the Scrum Master makes sure people following the agile process properly, and uh, and also he will facilitate, like suppose somebody is not aware of agile process, he will give the awareness of agile process to the team, and he will make understand the process and then make sure everybody follows the process properly or not. And he will derive the process means he will take care of entire process from the beginning of the project to till will deliver the software to the client. So each and every step Scrum Master will take care, and he is the main guy responsible for facilitating and driving the agile process. So most of the meetings conducted by the Scrum Master, and he's organized the meetings, development and testing team. So developer will develop the software and QA will test the software. So these are the main roles in agile process. So let us understand some different Scrum technologies. So Scrum technologies means first of all, we will see first user stories. We'll see. So user stories means a feature or a module in a software. So normally in classic model, we can call them as functionality or feature. Here we don't use such type of term, and here we called it as a as user story. So whenever we call user story, that represents a feature or a module in a software. And epic, it means a collection of multiple stories or user stories. We can say a huge requirement, and the epic can be derived in multiple stories. So one epic we can split into multiple stories. Means user story is a feature or a module in a software, and the collection of user stories called it as a epic. And we can say epic is a larger requirement and user story is a small requirement. So, and user stories derived for the epics, these things prepared by the business owner or product owner. So product owner is a responsible guide to prepare user stories and epics while interacting with the client. And in agile process, we don't use functionality or we don't use feature, always be called as a user story. So whatever the product owner is defined, which is a user story. I will show you how the user story is in further. Next, product backlog. It is a list of user stories prepared by the product owner at the beginning of the process. So if you start agile process at the beginning of the process, what you need to do? You need the requirement which is given by the client. And who is the guy responsible to collect all requirements? Product owner. So he is the guy who prepare features of the software. It means user stories and epics. And product backlog is a kind of document in the form of Excel file. So which contains all the stories defined by the product owner. So that is called product backlog. So this will be prepared by the product owner at the beginning stage of the process by taking all requirements from the client and convert them into stories and epics. And they will put them as a list, as a Excel document, and we can call it as a product backlog. So next, sprint. It is a period of time or a span of time to complete user stories. That means there are some user stories, and we will take some time to develop and test those features in the software. And that period of time is called a sprint, or we can also call as iteration. This is under term. So we can say first sprint, second sprint, third sprint. So similarly, we can say first iteration, second iteration. So this is another technical term. A period of time to complete user story in the sense you should complete design, development, testing, everything. So those particular features should be completed. And sprint is decided by the product owner and the team. They will sit together and will decide how much time is required to develop those stories. And that is usually 2 to 4 weeks of time. And that is called sprint. So product owner will not decide how many stories should be developed in one particular sprint. So he will sit with the team and all the team members together and then decide, like suppose product owner he's created, like let's say 100 stories. Developers and testers will not complete all 100 stories within one sprint. So they will pick some stories like 5 to 10 stories and they will develop and test in one sprint. And at the end of the sprint, we will deliver one piece of software to the client. And that sprint duration will always be 2 to 4 weeks of time. And next, sprint plan. Just give me a minute. So sprint planning. It is a meeting conducted with a team and team members, product owners, scrum master, developer, testers, everybody will be involved. So they can define what can be delivered in the particular sprint or duration. So it is conducted by the team to define what can be delivered in the sprint or duration. So as I said before, we have a product backlog, right? And product backlog, what will have? We will have all the user stories. And what is the sprint? It is the duration in which we have to develop and test some of the features. And what is sprint planning? In this meeting, the team will decide what are the stories we have to develop and test and release to the client in the particular sprint. So that we will so that will be decided during sprint planning meeting. So two things will be mainly focused. First thing is how many stories we have in the backlog. Second thing is how many stories we are going to develop and test it. So during the sprint and what is the duration of the sprint? This is the third one. So most of the time it will be one day meeting. Whenever you start the project, first day itself, we will have a sprint planning meeting with the team. So it is conducted with the team to define what can be delivered in the sprint and duration. So sprint backlog. It contains committed stories by developer or QA for specific sprint. Product owner prepared all the stories in the backlog, but we are not going to develop and test all the stories at once. So we will define multiple sprints. What are the stories that we are develop and test in one particular sprint? So those stories comes under sprint backlog. So that means once the product owner says like 100 stories in my product backlog, then developer and QA will choose some of the stories for developing and testing in that particular sprint. And those list of stories called as sprint backlog. And it is just like a product backlog, but only the difference is product backlog contains all the stories from the product. But in the sprint backlog, we have only few number of stories, so which are committed by developers and testers. They will accept it. There are these are the stories we are going to develop and test within the period of time. So those stories called as sprint backlog, and it is a subset of product backlog. Scrum meeting. So it means in the Agile, especially in the Scrum, every day we will have 15 minutes of meeting. So this is called Scrum meeting, or we can say Scrum call, stand-up call. It is conducted by the Scrum Master, and he is responsible for facilitating and driving the process. If there are any blockers, if there are any requirement missing, or if developer is not able to develop something, or if tester not able to test something, the Scrum Master will take care of it. The Scrum Master will track the entire status which is following the Agile process. It is conducted the meeting by Scrum Master every day for 15 minutes with the team. So everybody will be involved in this meeting. Every day, I mean, everybody should say the status. What are the tasks completed yesterday? What are the tasks planned today? And what are the tasks planned for tomorrow? And if there are any blockers while doing their task, if they face any challenges or if there is any delay, we have to discuss very clearly in this particular meeting. So that is called Scrum meeting. It mainly focus on three questions. So what did you do yesterday? What you will do today, and what we are going to do tomorrow. Within a sprint, there is a multiple meetings. Every day there is a scrum call for 15 minutes and everybody quickly update the status. Even solutions also will think and clear in this meeting itself. So that is called scrum call. Sprint retrospective meeting. So it is conducted only once after completion of the sprint. If the entire project cycle, if we have 5 sprints, at the end of the sprint, have a retrospective meeting. It means here we exactly discuss about the what went well, what went wrong, and what are the improvements to do in the next sprint. So those things we'll discuss during sprint retrospective meeting. So this is a kind of meeting after completion of the sprint will be conducted. So the entire team, including both the Scrum Master and product owner, should participate during this team, what went well, what went wrong, what we have to do in upcoming sprints. These are the things will be discussed in this meeting. So, sprint review. So, in the last day of sprint, this sprint review will happen. Here, testers has to share the screen with all team members and has to give the demo on development and testing software part. And this um, product owner has to be approved, right? So story point. So in the product backlog, we have list of user stories and all the stories defined by the product owner. And that particular sprint, we will choose some of the stories and accepted developer and tester. So and so stories we are going to develop and test in that particular sprint. So, but how the developer will choose the stories and what basis they will pick up the stories to develop and test based on the story point. During the sprint planning meeting itself, every story will be estimated by developers and testers, right? So estimation will be done within story point in agile process. And what is the story point means? It means a kind of rough estimation. So like developer says so and so stories like suppose for login developer for login development says I need this much of time to design and develop the story for the login. And QA say I require this much of time to write the test cases, executing the test cases, finding the defects and retest the defects for this particular story. So that is called a story point. It is nothing but a rough estimation given by the developer or QA for the user stories. Based upon the stories, we will choose the stories and plan for that particular sprint. And for example, story point always given in a Fibonacci series format. And what it means? Do you have any idea about Fibonacci series?
Sorry, the recording I'm
Yeah,
disconnected. Yeah,
it's okay. So Fibonacci series format. Do you have any idea on that?
yeah. It's the numbers actually. So 2, 4, 6, 8. So these are the numbers which we follow.
Yeah. So so let us say uh 0 plus 1, how much it is? 1, right? And 1 plus 1,
2,
2. And next, so it will be like 0, 1, 2, 3, like 5, 8. There is a numbers, right? And if you here, you can add it. 0 plus 1 equals to 2. Okay. Like 1 plus 2, how much? 3. 3 plus 2 plus 5. 5 plus 3, 8. Did you understand?
yes, yes.
So here, suppose when I say 1, so some companies one story point is considered which is equal to 1 hour. So, and sometimes they consider one story point equals to 1 day. One story point equals to 1 hour or one story point equals to 1 day. Okay. I mean, 1 day means 6 to 8 hours. So depends on the company, they will consider 1 hour or 1 day for one story point. Now suppose I have one story is a login story. For this, developer says some number and estimate the story that how much time is required for development. Let us say developer said 5. 5 means what? One story point, how much? 1 hour, right? And five story points, it means 5 hours, right? Did you understand, right, Kiran?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the developer will send on 5 story points. It means 5 hours. Then QA also will give estimate. tester give 3 story points. Means what? 3 hours to test the functionality of the application. So five means, sorry, let's
So
see, is
five
it
plus
called?
five plus three is eight. So eight means one day. So
Yeah,
one story.
1 story. Yeah. So five means what? 5 hours, right? And three means what? 3 hours. So how much? 8 hours. So that means 1 day. So they will estimate the stories in the form of story points and story points given by the developer and QA for that particular story. So this is called story point estimation. So burn down chat. Next one. This is Fibonacci series format actually. So yeah, on that basis, they will choose the stories to develop and test it. So burn down chat. This is a kind of graph prepared by the Scrum Master because he is the guy who will taking care of the process and he will take care of how the process is going and what is the status and is this process going well or not, and if there is any issues he will take care of it. And this is the role of the Scrum Master. So here button chat means what? So this shows how much effectively work in the sprint and which is maintained by the Scrum Master on regular basis. So after taking the status from the team on every day in Scrum meeting, and at the same time, he will also calculate the story point, how much estimation the developers and QA given, and how much time they exactly spending. Suppose I said for one story, I said which will be completed, let's say 3 days or 18 hours. And this is the estimation. And I have given initially at the time of the sprint meeting. But once I started working on the feature, I took more than 3 days. Then what happened? Automatically sprint cycle is affected, right? And then Scrum Master will ask you, why you taken these many days? Why you taken extra hours to complete this particular story? Then we have to give a proper reason to clarify that. And how the Scrum Master will know how much the work is completed, how much the work is still pending, and how the Scrum Master will know that. So he will prepare a chat that we can call as burn down chat. And by seeing the chat, Scrum Master will know the exactly how much work is remaining in the sprint. So this is a kind of graph which will prepared by the Scrum Master. So these are the very important terminologies. So let me share a small presentation to understand the whole process. Okay. So just look at these and whatever terminology so far we have learned, and let's try to see where exactly the things will happen. So here, this is the first stage. So product owner is the first guy. He is always interacted with the client. So he will take the inputs from the team. So stakeholders and users, clients, these are all the people work on giving inputs to the product owner. So this is the first stage. And once he get all the requirement and features from the client, he will prepare a document called product backlog. So this document is prepared by the product owner and he will list out all the stories in that particular document that is called a product backlog. Then once the product backlog is ready, then sprint planning meeting will happen. So sprint planning meeting is the first meeting, and during this meeting, everybody team will be involved. And what they do in the sprint planning meeting, they will review all the stories in the product backlog, and they will choose some stories for further particular sprint. And this after planning meeting, there will be another backlog called sprint backlog. So what is it? Sprint backlog is a list of stories which are committed by the team, and team will be committed what are the stories can be developed and tested for the particular sprint, that is called sprint backlog. And once the sprint backlog is ready or planned, then sprint will start. So sprint is a period of time between 1 to 4 week sprint, and this is one cycle, right? And one sprint is one cycle, and during the sprint, whatever the stories we committed in the sprint planning, sprint planning meeting, which are there in the sprint backlog. So the developers and testers both will work on those stories. And during this sprint cycle and during this particular cycle, every day for every 20 hours, there is a 15 minutes meeting. Okay. And that is called daily scrum meeting or stand up call. So Scrum Master conduct the meeting and rest of the team will participate the meeting, and they will give the updates. What is the plan yesterday? What is the plan today? And what they are going to do tomorrow? And what are the issues they have faced while development and testing? These things will be discussed during this Scrum meeting. So every day 15 minutes of meeting, and by taking all this status, Scrum Master will prepare rundown chat. So this chat says how much work is completed, how much work is still pending, and this kind of info will prepare and collect for this particular chat. And it is maintained by the Scrum Master. So after sprint cycle is completed, we will finish the work. That means we will have a piece of software uh, which contains like mm, just a minute. Yeah, sorry for inconvenience. So we will have a piece of software which contains some working functionalities, and after finishing the work, and we will have a sprint review. So sprint review is nothing but what are the stories we have completed and still pending, and is there any bugs, that all bugs closed or not. These things reviewed internally in the sprint review, and that is not sprint retrospective review. Okay. So sprint retrospective and sprint review both are different. In the sprint review, we will check all the test cases, all the tasks we have planned during the sprint is completed or not, or is there any open bugs are closed or not, all test cases are executed or not. So these things we will review once, and also provide the demo to the product owner. And if the demo is accepted by the product owner, then we will deliver a piece of software to the client. And we will do a retrospective meeting after completion of first sprint. And after completion of second sprint, for every sprint at the end of the sprint, we will do this meeting. And in the retrospective meeting, we will discuss these things: what went well, what went wrong, and what are the improvements to do in the upcoming sprints. So these things discuss during sprint retrospective meeting. For every cycle of sprint, there will be a piece of software will be delivered to the client. Once we completed all the sprint cycles, at the end, the customer will get the complete product, which contains all the features. So this is the agile process, and this is end-to-end process of agile. So throughout this process, three things we need to understand very clearly. So first, what type of people involved and what are their roles? Second, artifacts, and third one, ceremonies. Let me show. This is one. So what are the roles? As we discussed earlier, product owner, scrum master, and team. Product owner will define the requirements, right? And writing the stories. Scrum master will organize the meetings. He will drive the process, and team will perform the task, development, and QA activities. So they are the roles. Artifacts means what? What are the documents we have? Product backlog, sprint backlog, rundown chat. And ceremonies, sprint planning, daily scrum call, sprint review, sprint retrospective meeting. If in interview, if they ask you what are the roles involved in Agile and what are the artifacts we have in Agile and what are the different ceremonies we will conduct in Agile process, you should able to answer this. So these are the few things that we need to understand in Agile process. Now the next thing is Scrum board. So Scrum board is nothing but which contains the stories. Let us say we have a list of number of stories in particular sprint. So we have particular some stories like developer and tester is plan some stories, and we will track the stories, how many stories to do, and how many stories we progress, how many stories are in testing phase, and how many stories are done. So we will maintain the Scrum board and in day-to-day basis, and the Scrum board will be updated. So previously, a few years back, these things done by manual. They establish one whiteboard. They will make multiple sessions and they will use some sticky note paper. And in those papers, they will written some kind of stories. So they will, they will more on those people's, they will move on those papers in different sections. But nowadays, we can do by tool itself. So Zero Tool is a kind of Scrum board where we can move all the stories from one status to another status, like stories in to-do section. We can drag to in progress. We can drag to the testing, and once it's done, we can move to the done. So once it's coming to the done stage, that story is ready for demo, and after completion of demo, we will release the software to the client. So this is the Scrum board maintained by the team. And the Scrum board says how many stories that we have planned and how many stories ready for to do and how many are in progress and how many are completed testing and how many are ready to deliver. So this info will be there in the Scrum board. So whatever the tasks and activities that we discussed so far as per the agile process, each activity will track using a tool which is called as agile management tool. Like Zira is a tool which we can define the product backlog and we can write all the stories. So we can plan the sprint. We can also decide the story for sprint backlog, sprint. We can also create, we can track time and effort and everything we can also do. And some test management activities, we can write the test cases, executing the test cases, we can report the bugs, everything we can do in Jira itself. And before these tools, people use templates like Excel files and track everything manually. But nowadays, tool will do everything just based upon our data. So this is all about Agile and Scrum process. And this is DOR means definition of ready, and the DOD means definition of done. So suppose if you want to start a task or something, I need some input, right? For example, I just want to write a test cases. To write the test cases, what should be ready before that? My stories will be ready. Then I can write the test cases. So how you can define the readiness? Like story should be very clear and story should be testable and it should be feasible. It's clearly defined and every story is having acceptance criteria. If these parameters are clearly defined, then we can say that story is ready for development and testing. Similarly, when we say definition of done, when we say story is completed, the story is done. For that particular story, developer will design that, develop that, and unit testing will be completed, integration testing will be completed, and testing cases will be created. Testing will be done, smoke testing and sanity testing, everything is done. Bugs will be fixed. There are no bugs in the story and it is ready for demo. And demo also done. Then we can story is completed. All the development and testing activities should be completed. Then only we can say done. Story is done. So we use three terms, DOR and DOD. If I say anything is ready, these parameters we have to consider. Similarly, when I say something is done, then we have to consider these parameters is satisfying or not. Okay. And if these parameters is satisfied, then we can say particular story is completed or done. And this is ready for release to the client. This is the meaning of DOR and DOD. Now, actually, this is a few tasks for developer and QA. Now at this Excel, this is the sample product backlog template. So this is prepared by the uh, product owner. This is not your responsibility, okay? Which is prepared by the product owner. So he will prepare some info. And this is a sample epic of the e-commerce applications like uh, I'm just saying one example, okay, for open card application. Okay, for open card, this is not this one. If you take open card application, this is a, I mean, for a new commerce e-commerce, e-commerce website to launch the highest business value, right? Will be when a new user able to buy an item from the website, and for that we will have multiple stories, and for that, who prepare that? It is created by the product owner. Like, if you prepare a open card application, so like registration should be there in our website, and login and logout should be there, and user is able to search the product. Similarly, they will write multiple stories, right? So these are not actually, they are not exact story. So I mean, I'm talking about features and what features we will write a story, and this is the uh, I'm just telling one example. That's it. So I think there is a one epic, right? Having it's about, I don't know where is it. Um, yes, this is the one. So here registration is there, right? Some feature we have in the application and how the product owner will write the story. It will be more detailed. Like as a first time the visitor visit e-commerce website, I want to register my account so that I can log into my account or application, right? And this is the actual requirement and expectations from the client. As a client point of view, he says like that when the client accept the story, new user should able to register with valid data, and that is the acceptance criteria. So every user story will associate with some acceptance criteria. So this is one user story. User story have some ID and from which feature this user story is created, and this story is new, which is already developed or in progress. We will update the status later, and every story has some acceptance criteria. Then once it met, then only the product owner approve the story. Then only we will able to release the story to the client or a piece of software. Okay. So I just prepared in Excel and see, and this is just open qualification new commerce website. If you if you entered a new commerce website, so it will be like this: like registration, login, logout, user search product, and this is the epic, and this is user story ID features, and this is a user story points sprints, and see, and this is the sprint backlog, and again some epic user story ID, right? What are the features we have that in particular backlog, and what are the user stories and how, and here we will add additionally two columns like a story point and sprint. Okay, already we know that what is story points and sprint, right? User story there will happen during sprint planning, and it is done in 1 day meeting. That's it. Is it clear, guys? I mean, clear, clear.
Yes, yes. Got.
Yeah. So I will give the access of this document so you can refer it. And Monday onwards, we will see the TOSCA automation testing because the two persons are not available, right? Okay. Monday onwards, we will see what is the we'll see TOSCA tool brief explanation and installation. And further, some scenarios are there. So let us try to understand how we are doing. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll meet on Monday. Okay, Kiran.
Yes, yes. No worries.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Bye. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Have a
Yeah,
good day,
same to
Kiran.
you. Yeah, same to you.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.